Hello, Cornerstone Church, and anyone else who's listening to this. As you probably know, I usually send out an email every morning as we discuss one chapter of the Bible, and I send it out in podcasts also. I want to change that this week. We, the elders and the leaders of the church, we want to be in contact with you, so I thought I would do videos, actually, instead of the audio recordings. And each day of the week, you're going to receive something from us, whether it's a video or an email from one of the leaders, just so we can be in contact with you to encourage you, since we can't meet together in our large group and all the other meetings are suspended also. So we want to be an encouragement to you in this way. At the core of my being, my primary spiritual gift is teaching. So I thought my contribution for this short teaching time would be to teach the book of Colossians to you. We'll suspend for a minute here the readings in Matthew, and I want to talk about Colossians. Colossians is a phenomenal book, so each day I'll bring you about 5-6 minutes to you. And I'm not going to do every verse, just going to pull sections out. And today what I want to do is Colossians chapter 1, 9 to 14. Because this is at the heart of Colossians, what he's saying here. He's introducing what he wants them to understand. Colossians, the Colossae church, someone has come into it and is teaching lies about who Jesus Christ is and about what the gospel is. And at the heart of Christianity is Jesus Christ, the Son of God become human. And if we get that wrong, if that gets distorted, everything is distorted. So Paul is correcting the false teaching coming in. We get the correction. We don't know the full extent of the false teaching. So what I want to do is read to you 9 to 14 right now to show you what his goal is in each of the Colossians' life and our lives also. So Paul says this in verse 9. And so from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so as to walk, here it is, in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father, who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. He has delivered us from the kingdom of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. So that's a mouthful. That is an incredible amount of theology there. I could preach on this for hours. But right at the beginning of it, it said that he wants us to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, being fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work. Now, when we read that, Paul says this about 3-4 times in his letters. You can go to Ephesians chapter 4 and see the same thing. When we read that, we go, well, I can't do that. I can't live in a manner where I am fully pleasing to the Lord, walking in a manner worthy. I'm just a sinner, aren't I? I know I'm forgiven. I know the Spirit of God lives in me. But aren't I basically just a sinner who fails constantly? And this book is going to correct that lie. That is a lie. Yes, we have the flesh. The flesh is still in us. The flesh is a part of the old Tony, the old whatever your name is, that you used to be. It's still in you, but it's not who you are. See, God calls us to a very high calling here, to walk worthy of the Lord, be fully pleasing to him. That is possible, because he tells us why you can do that. You see, what God calls you to do, he qualifies you to do. What God calls you to do, he qualifies you to do. And he says right here in verse 12, we should give thanks to him because he has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light, transferring you from the domain of darkness, delivering you from the domain of darkness, and transferring you to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. You see, he has changed your identity completely. The imagery here is you were in darkness, the kingdom of Satan. He has brought you to the kingdom of light, the kingdom of his beloved Son. Paul uses these imageries all the time. There is a categorical change in your life, darkness to light. You're no longer in darkness, you're in light. Ephesians tells us that you were dead in your sins and trespasses, but God made you alive. He tells us also in Romans that you belonged to the family of Satan before, but now he's adopted you, and you belong to the children of God. And the Spirit dwells in you, which cries out, Abba, Father. Categorically, you have a change in your life. 2 Corinthians 5 says that you have been born again. And behold, the old is gone and new has come. So we have been equipped to live a life pleasing to the Lord. We need to believe that truth and get rid of the lies that all I am is a sinner saved by grace. We are sinners saved by grace, but we weren't left as sinners. We were changed and became children of God. We've been made alive. We've been transferred to the kingdom of light, the kingdom of his beloved Son. That's where we belong now. And in light of that, he says, now, Tony, live like it. Live a life worthy of the Lord, pleasing in every manner of life. We can do that. And during these times of isolation, sometimes isolation is what brings lies to us. So we need to stay in contact with each other through these videos, through emails, phone calls. Please, would you do the same thing? Would you engage people that you know and call them and remind them of who they are? Remind them that we can endure through this. We can do all things because Christ is in us. He empowers us, according to this passage. Ephesians chapter 4 talks about that. We can do this, Cornerstone. So each day you're going to hear from me or someone else in the church. And we want to thank you for your faithfulness. And hang in there, because God is still at work. He's still on the throne. He has not changed one bit. His purposes have shifted during our times. And we'll talk more about that Sunday morning, actually. Look forward to tomorrow, to Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. Read the whole book of Colossians, or at least Colossians 1 for tomorrow. Thanks, Cornerstone. Talk to you tomorrow.